are going to be in here. I think this is the outside. So yeah, the sunrise, black walls. I had to get
Sorry?
你现在在做直播是吧 Are you doing the YouTuber?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm the president of the Stop Crime SF. So, as you can tell, Stop Crime SF is a really diverse and inclusive board of directors, and I'm really proud of being part of it. Please, Stop Crime SF board, stand up and wave so people can see you. Thank you, thank you. As you know, we have a really important people in the room today. But you know who is the most important people in the room today? All of you! You are here because you care for your city. And that is already making San Francisco safer and better, right? Stop Crime SF was founded around 2016 by two really amazing and hardworking individuals. One of our co-founders is Frank Nono. And the other one is Ahsha Safai. Talking about Stop Crime SF Board of Directors, a former one, a really special one, is our now supervisor, Joe Engardi. Unfortunately, he cannot be with us today, but a really hardworking woman that works for him, his chief of staff. I think I forgot her name. Tita Bell! Is here for a really important award tonight.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As Karina mentioned, my name is Tita Bell. I am Supervisor Joel Engardio's Chief of Staff. The supervisor is unable to be here. Thank you. The supervisor is unable to be here to present an award to co-founder Alice Xavier tonight, so he asked me to be here to present. What's in my hand is a certificate of honor from the Board of Supervisors, and he also asked me to deliver some remarks for Ms. Xavier that he prepared. It's written in first person, so please indulge me and maybe close your eyes and imagine that this is Supervisor Engardio saying these words. This honor for Alice Xavier is long overdue. I met Alice back in 2016 when her neighborhood became one of the first hotspots for car break-ins in San Francisco. The internet had discovered the magical tiled staircase at Moraga and 16th Avenue near Alice's home, and the stairs became a tourist destination. Tourists would park their rental cars in the neighborhood full of luggage on the way to the airport. The tourists wanted one last look at San Francisco from the ocean, from the vista, from the vista of the staircase. But the rental cars became a magnet for thieves. Broken glass was on every curb for blocks around Alice's house. Luggage and laptops and iPads were stolen. Then the thieves started breaking into the cars of residents in the area. By the end of 2016, San Francisco had experienced a record number of car break-ins. Alice and her neighbors went to community meetings, but didn't feel confident. The police blamed the district attorney for not prosecuting the crimes, and the DA blamed the police for not making arrests. And both blamed judges for not sentencing the most prolific burglars. So Alice and half a dozen of her neighbors were fed up. They started a group called Stop Crime SF. They began a court watch program to show judges that there was a community with interest in these cases. Alice ran court watch behind the scenes as the Stop Crime membership grew from half a dozen neighbors to several thousand residents from all over San Francisco. I served on the board of Stop Crime SF with Alice as a volunteer, and Alice was the heart and soul of the group. We all looked to her for guidance, and we never did anything unless Alice was on board. We loved her baked goods that she made for our meetings. Alice never wanted to be in the spotlight. When Heather Knight, the famous Chronicle columnist, now with the New York Times, wrote about the Court Watch program, I told Heather that she needed to center the piece on Alice. Alice said, no way. But Alice kept working behind the scenes, making Stop Crime SF everything that it would become. I'm glad we finally get to honor Alice today. I wish I could be here to say these words in person, but I'm on the road heading back to San Francisco this evening. Thank you, Alice, for being an unsung hero to San Franciscans who seek and deserve a safe city for all.
Thank you, everybody. I feel it's really important to participate in our city. And I'm grateful for all the people that have volunteered, all the neighborhood groups, all the individuals that have put in time for beautification as well as safety. I'd like to share my recognition with you all and encourage you all to volunteer in your communities, making it a better place for all your families. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please, for Ahsha. And as you can figure it out by now, I'm not from here originally. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, in South America. And there, we didn't have women in power. 20 plus years ago, I was only like 2 years, I moved to San Francisco Bay Area, the United States, and we didn't have enough women of color in power. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, with my immense pleasure to introduce not just a woman of color in power, but a woman of color in power that is doing an amazing work. Finally, after so many years, San Francisco started to see a decline in our crime statistics. And that thanks, ladies and gentlemen, to Brooke Jenkins. Award. Award for firefighter, crime fighter of the year 2026, 2023. I'm nervous now. That woman makes me nervous. To our extraordinary Madam District Attorney Brooke Jenkins.
I have to say it's been such a pleasure to work with Karina and Frank and Stop Crime over the past couple of years, really towards the same mission, which is stopping crime in San Francisco. And so I'm just so honored. When I found out that I was going to receive the award, I was really taken aback. Of course, I wasn't expecting anything like this, but I'm just truly honored. And thank you all for what you do, like I said, as a partner in the same mission. And I think we're all fighting for the same thing, which is a safer San Francisco. And I don't know that I've met one person in this city who doesn't want to live or work in a safe neighborhood. I think it's a human right. I think it's truly one of the things that we all want and deserve. And so it is one of the most important roles that I can play in this city is to lead that fight on one level or another. I have to say that when Mayor Breed appointed me exactly 2 years ago today, I had to make sure. You know, I tell people it feels like dog years in one sense, because the days are long, but in another sense it's flown by because the weeks are short. But when I took over 2 years ago, I had a few goals in mind, which of course were reducing crime across San Francisco and restoring accountability in our criminal justice system, but also repairing our office, which was a shell of itself when I took it over, and making sure that we had experienced prosecutors back in the office and that we were a team, again, fighting for the same mission, that we restored partnership to San Francisco, that it desperately needed amongst people responsible for public safety. We had to have that because if we're not rowing in the same direction, we're not going to get to the place that we want to go. And as a part of that, another goal of mine was to go around San Francisco and to listen to my constituents, to listen to people in neighborhoods across San Francisco to see what they were concerned about in their specific neighborhood, and to make sure that voices were heard, because that is our job. That is our job as public servants, to listen to what the public wants. And so I've spent a lot of time going around. I see so many faces in this room that not only have shared their concerns with me, but have also been so supportive and been allies and great partners in trying to restore a sense of safety to San Francisco. And it is through those partnerships, not only with many of you, but with the San Francisco Police Department and with many other agencies, both local, state, and federal, that we have been able to get to a place of reported crime being down about 28%. And we would not be there without having those partnerships, again, across the board. And one thing that I get asked often is, what is the metric for your success? What do you see as the barometer for whether you're doing well in your role? And I said, well, you know, data tells us one thing, and of course we have to respect what it says. I said, but it will always be how people feel and what they tell me about how they feel. And unless and until they feel the way that I believe that they are entitled to feel, which is safe, then our work is not done. And that's how I feel right now. And so I assure you, we will continue on with this work. One thing that I promised all of you is that we will do it in a way that San Francisco and all of us can respect. We will make sure that there is fairness, that there is justice, that we balance accountability with the need for making changes to our system that ensure that people aren't treated unfairly. We will get all of that done at the same time because we don't have to sacrifice one or the other. And we are doing that now. And I just, again, thank Stop Crime for everything that they do, from both hosting community meetings to hosting debates to their Court Watch program, because transparency is key. Making sure that people see what is going on and know what is going on is a right. You have a right to it. And so I am going to make sure that we continue with the fight. I just appreciate you all so much, and I'll let you get to what you're really here for.
Suspense. Now the serious event is going to start, the mayoral debate. So thank you so much for being here for this part of the evening. And it's my pleasure to introduce you, Marie Hurabiel. She's the president of Connected SF. And You don't know any other woman that works as hard as this woman does.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you. I don't know if you guys are aware, but we've decided to host a mayoral debate tonight. So we are going to get to that, but as you may or may not be aware, it is being televised. And so we are going to start promptly at 7. And we also told that to the candidates. So I don't know if they're all here yet, but we will start promptly at 7. You may chit chat in the meantime, or I could stand up here and do a tap dance. You probably don't want that. Feel free to grab a drink, grab a snack, and we will be back here promptly to start at 7. Thank you.
But my friend Emily here can take that from you if you'd like. And she'll make sure it gets to...
Because I watched a bunch of them got collected already.
Yes, yeah, they're being collected by volunteers all
All
over.
right.
Exactly.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
This is my kid's apartment right here.
I've been doing a lot of documentary, right? But I just released a 30-minute documentary a week ago just on it out. Part of it on making swimming. It's on YouTube. One of them, I just never posted on YouTube. But I did a showing. Look back. And it's still on YouTube.
Patrick.
Could I ask everyone to please take their seats? We're about to get started. Hey, everybody!
House now. And I am waiting for the signal to get started at 7. Are we good? All right. In that case, I will jump right in. Good evening. Greetings, everyone. This is a full house. It's so great to have you all here. I'm Marie Rabiel, the Executive Director of Connected SF. And thank you. On behalf of our team and our co-hosts, Stop Crime SF and Stop Crime Action, I am so pleased to welcome you all here to tonight's mayoral candidate debate. Our lead moderator tonight is reporter Amber Lee of KTVU. You have a lot of fans here, Amber. Amber is a proud native San Franciscan who grew up in the Mission District. She speaks fluent Cantonese thanks to her parents who immigrated to the United States from China and Hong Kong. Amber graduated from Lowell. And San Francisco State University. She joined KTVU in 1997, where she is a general assignment reporter and has filled in as anchor. Amber was, you don't have to clap at everything I say. Amber was a former correspondent for CNN and has won multiple awards for her coverage of the Bay Area, including the Emmy and the Edward R. Murrow Awards. But what's most important to Amber is giving a voice to people who are often overlooked. Sharing their stories and serving the community by providing information to members of the public so they can make informed decisions, which is what we hope to do here tonight. Our co-moderator is Frank Noto, co-founder. You heard about Frank a little bit earlier, but just to remind you, he's the co-founder and a board member of Stop Crime SF and is the president of Stop Crime Action. So I want to say thank all of you for getting engaged and educated on our mayoral candidates. Your participation in this election is crucial. Thanks to everyone who has made this event possible tonight, including those volunteering this evening. And a huge thanks to our media partner, KTVU, for broadcasting this debate and lending us Amber Lee. Finally, thank you to our brave candidates for showing up to share your vision with all of us. The 5 candidates leading in the polls were invited to this debate. All 5 of them accepted. But you will only meet 4 tonight, as one has decided not to speak with this gathering of citizens. Make of that what you will.
There's 13!
Before we begin, in order to get through as many questions as possible this evening, we ask that you show your reactions visibly instead of verbally. Jazz hands, thumbs up, thumbs down. We'll allow the program to keep moving and ensure that everyone can hear. Your voice is best heard at the ballot box, and our goal this evening is to educate and inform voters by hearing from mayoral candidates directly about their solutions to the problems we face in San Francisco. We have 4 prepared questions, and then we'll turn to audience questions that were either submitted tonight. Wow, someone turned up the sound. That were either submitted tonight or via online registration. We will ask as many as time permits. So that depends on us moving things along. If you are submitting a question tonight and have not turned it in yet, volunteers will collect them along the aisles after the candidates' opening statements. So look for those on the aisle. And now I am honored to turn our program over to the warm and wonderful Amber Lee.
Hello, everyone. I so appreciate the warm welcome. I'm here tonight largely because I love San Francisco. So when I was asked to moderate this event, I didn't hesitate. It was an absolute yes. So I have the pleasure and the honor of introducing the 4 candidates who are here to debate tonight. First, I want to explain how we're going to do things. We are having them answer questions based on the alphabetical order of their first name. And with each round, we will move accordingly to make it fair. So are they ready to come on, Hatun? Should I welcome them on stage right now? Okay, so alphabetically, the first one would be Supervisor Ahsha Safai. Come on up. Come on up.
Go that way.
Welcome, Supervisor. Over here. Second up is candidate Daniel Lurie. Welcome, Daniel. Next, we have Mayor London Breed. Welcome. And last but not least, candidate Mr. Mark Farrell. Welcome. You may all take a seat while I go over the rules with our audience. I'm sure you, all 4 of you know the rules, but I want to explain it to the audience now. Answers to pre-written questions, each candidate will get 90 seconds. If someone calls out another candidate by name, that person gets a 30-second rebuttal. And then there are no rebuttals of rebuttals. And I think that I may choose to ask a follow-up question of any of these candidates, and they get a minute to answer. So I'm going to ask each one of you when you're called, when you make the introductory remarks, your opening statements, which is 2.5 minutes, to stand up and lift up your microphone so we can hear you. So we're going to start with you, Supervisor Ahsha Safai. Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yep. Great. All right. Good evening, everyone. All right. Let me start by saying I'm a proud immigrant who fled violence and upheaval at a very early age and came to this country when I was about 6 years old. A lot of what you're seeing in the Middle East today are my earliest memories. I was raised by a single mom, and I'm a proud husband and father of 2. I want you to walk away this evening and ask yourself one central question. Who has the experience and the track record to lead all San Franciscans? Not just the billionaires and the billionaire heirs, but working and middle-class families, those struggling to survive in San Francisco, struggling to get by. Those are the people that I have represented the past 8 years and dedicated my entire public career to. We can't just be a tale of 2 cities. I put myself through college, earned a master's degree in city planning from MIT, and I met the love of my life and moved to her hometown, San Francisco. I've dedicated the past 24 years in this city to public service. I've worked for 2 mayors, I've run my own small business, and I've worked with organized labor. This election is a critical moment for our city. I've always fought for working people and have a track record of bringing people together across political divides, particularly business and labor. We have the resources in our city, almost a $16 billion budget, but what we're lacking right now is the leadership, management, and the accountability. My top priorities as I run for mayor are addressing public safety, tackling the widespread corruption in City Hall, addressing street homelessness, and dealing with the massive overdose crisis this city has faced. As mayor, I will fight for this every single day, and I will fight for a city for all San Franciscans. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm Daniel Lurie. I was born and raised in this city. I love this city. My wife and I are proud to be raising 2 young kids here, a 13-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old son. I'm running because San Francisco needs accountable leadership and new ideas to turn our city around. You all are here tonight to learn the differences between those of us here on stage. The difference is not in the years of experience, but the right type of experience needed to address the crisis facing our city. My opponents bring experience in a broken system that has failed to make our community safe, address our drug and homelessness crisis, and make San Francisco more affordable. The same City Hall insiders that got us into this mess won't get us out. And you won't hear that tonight based on what they say, but because of their records. So let me tell you a little bit about my record of changing systems and getting big things done here in San Francisco. Without any public money, I founded and led one of the largest and most innovative poverty-fighting organizations in this country because the old way of helping people living in poverty wasn't cutting it. I'm the only candidate who has held nonprofits accountable to deliver measurable results on housing, education, and employment. I'm the only candidate in this race to build affordable housing, and I did it at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time that it took San Francisco to do the same. I'm the only candidate in this race that's helped house over 40,000 people since 2015 and helped tens of thousands of others from falling into homelessness. And I'm the only candidate in this race that's brought a global sporting event to the Bay Area in Super Bowl 50, which brought over $240 million in economic revenue, which means our bars were full, our restaurants were full, and our hotels were full. I've proven how accountable leadership can get big things done for our city. As your mayor, I'll bring that same culture of accountability to deliver results, because that's what it's going to take to make our city safe and clean, end the drug markets, build housing, and bring our businesses back.
Good evening, everyone. I'm London Breed, and I'm proud to serve as your mayor. I was born and raised in San Francisco in challenging circumstances, and I love this job and I love this city. But we need to take a moment to realize we've been through a lot. I became mayor during tragedy. Did we pause it? You got it? Okay. I became mayor during tragedy when we lost Mayor Ed Lee, and then I helped this city through one of the most challenging public health crises that we've seen in 100 years. And we saved lives. And then we had to deal with the challenges of crime. And we had to increase our capacity to get to a better place. And the reason why crime is lower than it's been in 10 years has everything to do with the work we've done to build capacity. We have focused on making over 3,000 arrests of those who are dealing on the streets of San Francisco and those who are using. We have focused on bait car operations, and what we're seeing is a significant decline in car break-ins. We have put out a number of law enforcement officers to deal with a lot of the retail theft operations, and San Francisco has seen the largest decline of retail theft in the country. And here's the thing, I know that numbers don't mean anything if you don't feel safe, and that we have a lot more work to do. Part of that work is staffing up the police department, and even today we graduated 9 laterals who came from other departments, and in fact we have a class of 40 as we speak and another class of 50 coming up. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that alternatives to policing, the street crisis response team that I set up in this city, that other cities are duplicated, is helping to deal with the challenges of those struggling with mental health on the streets of San Francisco. I know we have much more work to do, and I am looking forward to doing that work with each and every one of you. What these guys have in common is that they want us to feel bad about San Francisco. They want to take us backwards. They are running against San Francisco. I'm the only person running for San Francisco to move us forward. So I look forward. I hope I can count on your support, and I look forward to helping make downtown a 24/7 neighborhood, to continuing to get people off the streets of San Francisco and into housing, to continue the work that we need to do to make San Francisco a better place, and we are well on our way.
Same thing. Get that? All right, we're good. So, I'm running for mayor to bring real change to our city. I've been mayor before. I understand the challenges inside of City Hall that our elected officials are facing today, and I am the only one on this stage with the experience, a track record of success on the issues that matter today, the competence and the strong vision to move our city forward. I'm a proud born and raised San Franciscan. I'm a proud lifelong Democrat. And I'm proud that my wife Liz and I are raising our 3 children here in San Francisco. 2 of them, they're gonna hate me for doing this, are right in the audience here tonight. There we go. And I'm running for mayor because I believe in San Francisco. We have everything going for us as a city. We have the natural beauty around us, even when Carl the Fog comes in like tonight. We have our parks, like we're in Golden Gate Park here tonight, across the city of San Francisco. We have the universities inside of our town and in the Bay Area, but most importantly, we have the people of San Francisco. Our city has a spirit and an ethos about us that is unique around the world and that makes our city iconic. To me, it is worth fighting for. It is worth fighting to make sure we have a leader inside of City Hall that will bring our city back. Because if we're being honest, right now our city's in a tough spot. Public safety is the #1 issue in San Francisco. Compared to when I was mayor in 2018, we've lost 600 officers from our police department. We're down 25% across the board. Homelessness is on the rise. The number of drug overdose deaths on our streets is on the rise. And our economy has hit the skids, and our reputation, both nationally and internationally, has hit the skids. We need a mayor with experience, with competence, with a vision. Because I believe experience matters. I believe competence matters. And I believe vision matters for the city of San Francisco. I look forward to sharing that vision with you tonight and for the rest of this campaign. Thank you.
Moving forward, I ask that the audience refrain from clapping or cheering or making any kind of noise out of respect for everybody. You can use the hand signals to be respectful of everyone. Before I ask the first question, I want to let the candidates know that there are 2 timekeepers in front. There's a digital timer and a handheld timer. The digital will give you, I think, a 10-second mark when you're getting really close. The handheld will come at the 1-minute mark, the 30-second mark, and the 10-second mark in time. Again, all the pre-written questions I will be asking, you will be given 90 seconds, with 30 seconds for rebuttals if necessary. So the first question, and it's first up will be candidate Daniel Lurie. One ago, a 74-year-old Filipina hotel worker, Corazon Dondon, was pushed in front of a BART train and killed at the Powell Street BART station by a homeless, mentally ill, repeat criminal offender who is known to police. What kind of plan or action will you take to address these types of people who are violent and plaguing public transit as well as our city streets? Again, 90 seconds.
I guess we're standing. It was a tragedy. Shouldn't be happening in our great city. But unfortunately, it's happening too often. And we are seeing people struggling with mental health and drug addiction on our streets. We're spending $700 million a year on our behavioral health system. And we forgot to build the beds. We have been so far skewed towards harm reduction, which has its place and is important, that we forgot that we need to do harm reduction to get people into treatment and get people into those beds. I did a ride-along with Central Station police officers about a month ago, and we were doing a call. We did it. The first call I was on with them was to somebody that was off her meds. She was known to police, and we showed up, 2 police cars, so 4 officers, 1 ambulance, and 1 fire truck. There's about 8 or 10 first responders to that incident. The officers were incredible. They took care of her, but we had 8 to 10 first responders dealing with 1 woman who was also known. They didn't have a place to take her. We have failed to build the beds. I have a plan to do that. We need to spend more money on mental health and drug treatment in our city.
Mayor Bree.
First of all, we have not failed to build the beds. We are building the beds, and we were finally able to get changes to our conservatorship laws on the statewide level. January of this year, those went into effect. In fact, the city has over 600 people that are currently conserved, but not all of them are in locked facilities. But I do believe that there are some people who need to be in locked facilities. And thank goodness to the voters of California, because Proposition 1 has passed, and that means more money for more behavioral health beds in San Francisco. I wish we can wave a magic wand and then take all of the folks who we know clearly are struggling with mental illness off the streets of San Francisco. But it's not been that simple. What we've been able to do is make arrests when they commit a crime, but by that time, people are already harmed. I created the Street Crisis Response Team so that they can go out there and to work with these individuals, and so that we can hold them for 72 hours as we develop a plan for service and support. And that is the work we have been doing and will continue to do. Do we need more? Of course we do. And more resources and more changes to our policies have put us in a position that we are going to see change, even if it includes paying for beds in other jurisdictions in order to get people off the streets. That's the work that I have done and will continue to do.
The reality is, it's not working. We need to do better as a city of San Francisco to help those that are suffering from mental illness, from homelessness, from drug addiction on the streets of our city. And our city's approach has failed over the last 6 years. When I was mayor, we took out all the large tent encampments in the city of San Francisco. But right now in the city of San Francisco, homelessness is on the rise. Our approach to the fentanyl crisis is harm reduction, and that's the central tenet. I believe we need to save lives. Last year, over 800 people overdosed on our streets. That's not humane, compassionate, or progressive. We need to get people off the streets and save their lives. That has to be our North Star as a city of San Francisco. And you know what? We can save lives, and we can also clean up our neighborhoods at the same time. And at the end of the day, the city of San Francisco has to be responsible for everybody. And when we have incidents like this, when people are pushed in front of BART trains, when people are assaulted with hate crimes on minibuses and throughout the city of San Francisco, to me, that speaks of a failed approach. We need a mayor who's going to be a leader. be aggressive, get people off the streets by every legal means possible, save their lives, and save the city of San Francisco once again.
I'm going to direct my follow-up question to Mark Farrell. Since you said that what the other two have mentioned has failed, providing more beds, what do you specifically propose to do?
Sure, absolutely. So it's not providing more beds if they haven't provided enough beds right now. The failed approach is when harm reduction is the only thing that we're doing on the streets of San Francisco. Why is it that we have city-funded nonprofit workers today handing out free packets of tinfoil in the Tenderloin to those suffering from drug addiction? That doesn't make any sense. We're allowing them to kill themselves. Why are we doing that? We're also destroying our neighborhoods. That is not what we should be doing in San Francisco. Let's save their lives. Let's also take a different approach, and the North Star is saving their life, but getting people off the streets and into treatment. I have called for a fentanyl state of emergency, and as part of that will be additional law enforcement in the Tenderloin South of Market, but also it's to create a 24/7 centralized intake center with thousands of more shelter beds so we can do exactly what I talked about, save lives, clean up our neighborhoods, and let's fight for the entire city of San Francisco. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Hello? Thank you. So first and foremost, let's recognize that the lady that was pushed into the train worked for 40 years at the St. Francis. She was a hotel and restaurant worker from Local 2. She insisted, despite her family's pleas, she insisted to take public transportation every day. And she should be able to do that in a safe way. When she's standing there on the platform and gets pushed into a train, something has gone miserably wrong in our city. I'll tell you one thing, the Board of Supervisors, we led the effort to pass mental health SF. This mayor has never fully funded it. It's sitting there unfunded. That means we'd have the mental health workers, we'd have the nurses to do the work, we would have a 24-hour, 24/7 intake center. That has to be. I passed a law to allow paramedics to be out there and do 5150s. And now recently, because UCSF purchased St. Mary's and St. Francis, we can expand those recovery beds to get people the mental health treatment they need. Thank you.
Our next question will be Mayor Breed. There's no rebuttals of rebuttals. Mayor Breed, our next question. You tell me. Remember you said no rebuttals of rebuttals. Okay. Okay. So Mayor Breed. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to make a comment. First of all, I hope somebody in this audience is fact-checking, because there's a lot of things that have been said up here tonight that are not true. First of all, with Mark, he said that he cleared all large tent encampments, when in fact, when he served as temporary mayor of San Francisco, tent encampments were 58% higher than they are today. So what he said is not true. And what Ahsha has said about mental health SF, he's not even been at the table. I've been working with other supervisors to not only provide funding, but increase the amount of funding to add almost 400 new beds for mental health support in this city.
So the next question will be answered by Mayor Breed. It's her turn. San Francisco has been slow in recovering from the pandemic. Major cities in this country and in other countries, Europe, Asia, appear to have recovered much faster than San Francisco. For me, growing up in San Francisco, Union Square was always a major shopping area. Many major retailers are now gone, soon will be. I don't know of a major city that doesn't have a downtown with great shopping and gathering areas for the community. We can't just keep blaming online shopping, because in the peninsula, the South Bay shopping malls are busy, Nordstrom's expanding their presence. Don't think restaurants alone will work. What are your detailed plans for areas such as Union Square, downtown, and the financial district?
Well, first of all, San Francisco has been extremely tech heavy. And more importantly, we have switched in a lot of ways when you look at the data to online shopping. Downtown does not have the luxury to be a 9-to-5 financial district or just for shopping during that time period. It has to become a 24/7 neighborhood, just like any other neighborhood in San Francisco, a place where you work, where you live, and where you play. We have been doing a number of night markets and exciting activation in the evening. We've seen nightlife increase by over 92% downtown, but we also have to stop with the restrictions. And part of my plan is 30 by 30, bringing 30,000 new residents and students to the downtown by 2030 by lifting our restrictions to make some of our existing buildings into housing, into dorm space. And some of those same buildings, because we know we have a lot of folks who are interested in classroom and lab space, allowing those buildings to convert to such. We are already seeing change. In fact, at the Warfield, there'll be 34 new units as well as a couple of other buildings. We have to make sure that our city's policies, which typically get in the way and are designed to do one thing or another and designed to say no, are policies that are saying yes, are getting us to yes by making those changes. And that's my plan for downtown. And there's more online since my time ran out.
So all I hear is excuses. And you know what? After 6 years, you don't get to have a plan, you have a track record. And this is a track record of failure here in San Francisco. San Francisco ranks dead last in the United States in economic recovery post-COVID. Dead last. Every other city, Amber, you're talking about other cities, have recovered in ways that our city hasn't. So what am I going to do about it as your mayor? First of all, redoubling and focus our efforts on public safety and street conditions. It's the reason why conventions left. Conventions feed our hotels and our restaurants downtown year round. Then we have to get aggressive with tax incentives inside of City Hall like we did in the mid-market area in the 2010s with Mayor Lee under his leadership. It worked, and while City Hall focused on that, that neighborhood was revitalizing. But long term, we have to focus on the conversion from commercial to residential downtown as well. New York City in the 1980s, Wall Street was a ghost town on the weekends, but they made a long-term commitment. Over 20 million square feet of office space are now residential. We need to do the same downtown in San Francisco. But it's not just the 10 or 15 buildings that City Hall's talking about right now. We have to get more creative. We have to be bold as a city. These Class B and Class C buildings, let's allow them to demo. Let's upzone the financial district. And let's commit to creative tax vehicles like state increment tax financing. Then we can build a future of San Francisco and a San Francisco and a downtown that we can all be proud of and excited about going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I just introduced legislation that we passed at the Board of Supervisors. Think about every major world-class city in the world: New York, London, Boston, Chicago. The list could keep going. Every single one of them has a university presence in the downtown. So my legislation will create a fund so we could buy buildings that are there right now. They're at a historic low. That would allow us to jumpstart the transition from office to university, and not just studying, because we have about 12,000 students studying in the downtown right now. We need them living there, thriving there, spending their money there. That will jumpstart a change and a transition to an over-heavy reliance on the service industry and tech, and one that has people living there. Also, transition from office to residential. There's places in the world, Los Angeles, New York, others, that have done an aggressive push to transition from office to residential. But let's take a step back for a second. At the end of the day, when you talk to people, when they ask them why businesses, others about downtown, they want it clean and safe. So we have to make our public works department a true 24-hour department, and that's what I would do as mayor. I would also have the presence of foot patrol officers protecting us in not just the downtown, but all over San Francisco. Thank you.
We need to act. We need to have public safety. We need to have clean and safe streets downtown. And it can't just be when we have a conference in town or a world leader coming to town. So we need a fully staffed police department, a fully staffed sheriff's department. We need, as you said, shopping is happening. You go to the Marin Country Mart, you go to the Southeast, you go to Stonestown, and people feel safe. And so we need to do that. We need to create certainty in permitting, so we invite businesses back so they don't have to go through 6, 12-month process to change a space and to change a use of space. So we need to invite businesses back downtown. And then, like everybody else has said up here, the only difference is they've had years to work on it, is that we need to transform it into a 24/7 community. The former interim mayor, Farrell, is right. I was downtown New York City after September 11th, 2001, and no one thought that part of town was coming back. But let me tell you, downtown Union Square is coming back. We are going to do this. We just need some imagination. We need some new ideas. We can do this, San Francisco.
Supervisor Ahsha Safai, I want to do a follow-up question about this question to you, since you're in office.
Thank you.
You know, is the door completely closed on Macy's? Are you going to like to keep it there if you're mayor?
Absolutely. I think if you talk to them, we had a hearing at City Hall. We brought the workers in, the United Food and Commercial Workers. We talked to representatives from Macy's. This is about a year and a half out. I think what we're going to see is maybe a smaller footprint at some point. You're going to see an opportunity to reimagine some of the larger spaces into smaller spaces. But I will do everything I can to make sure that Macy's stays there. Again, I got to bring it back to the workers that have been there. A lot of them live in my district. And think about it. When it started out, those were career jobs. People that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, dedicating their lives to serving the people that come and shop and prosper in Union Square. So we have to do everything we can to fight for that. And I would do that in an aggressive way. We want to make it safe. We want to make it clean, as I said before, and we want to keep that flagship store there, 100%.
Okay, our next question would start with candidate Farrell. The proposed fiscal year 2025 budget is at almost $16 billion, represents an increase of over 50% since 2018. And the San Francisco City County budget is up over 40% since 2018. The Comptroller's Office has conservatively projected a budget deficit of $1.4 billion per year during the next mayoral term. The departments with the most dramatic growth over the past 5 years have generally been related to homelessness, subsidized housing, and public health. To close the deficit, these areas would presumably have to be cut materially. How would you do it? 90 seconds.
Okay, so when I was mayor, the budget was $11 billion, and now it's close to $16 billion. And at the end of the day, when you look at the budget, over $2 billion of that growth is going to a big bucket called community health and welfare. I'm gonna ask everybody in this room, over the last 12 months, have you seen $2 billion of additional spend on behalf of the city government around community health and welfare? The answer is no way. We are spending inefficiently and ineffectively. But let's drill down into homelessness in particular. For homeless spending, I committed on day one when I launched my campaign that we would fully audit all of the nonprofits around our homeless industrial complex here in San Francisco. Now let me be the first to say there are some amazing nonprofits here in town that we need to honor and respect their work. But how we fund it is completely inefficient and ineffective. Do you realize that there are 258 nonprofits in San Francisco that get funding from our city government alone just for homeless services? I was shocked. That couldn't be right when I saw that. But the worst part is, 9 different city departments fund these homeless nonprofits, and in multiple instances, up to 6 different city departments fund the same nonprofit. Ineffective, inefficient spending. It is going to be more important than ever over the next 4 years to have a mayor come in with a finance background. I chaired our budget committee. I've spent over 20 years in the private sector. I will turn this ship around.
Supervisor Ahsha Safai.
So after 3 years on the budget committee, I can tell you the Department of Public Health is 1/3 of our city's budget. The Department of Homeless Supportive Housing, when it started out in 2016, a $100 million department, has grown to over $700 million. And I don't think anyone in this room would raise their hand and think that the issue of street homelessness has gotten better. It's probably only gotten worse. So 18 months ago, just to be clear, ran a ballot measure that said mandatory audits in the Department of Homeless Supportive Housing. We did those first audits last spring. They had to call in the FBI. The group was selling vouchers to friends and family. One of the next audits that happened, they were submitting false invoices to the city for work that was never done. I ran that measure. I'm someone that runs by metrics and numbers, and I will tell you, we will continue that. Secondly, we do a tremendous amount of contracting in the city, both public, nonprofit, and private entities. One area in particular is our Department of Public Health General Hospital. We contract out many of our nursing jobs. That costs us a time and a half. So I have a ballot measure that will bring and incentivize bringing nurses inside to save the city money. We need to continue to do things like that to save our taxpayers money and ensure that those contracts get smaller.
We have an outdated, ineffective, and corrupt City Hall bureaucracy. Mark mentioned there are 248 nonprofits working on housing and homelessness. At Tipping Point, the organization I started, there's about 17. Are there more than 17 good groups? Absolutely. As Mark said, there are many good nonprofits. Are there 248? No. We need to streamline how we do permitting, how we do contracting, and how we do construction around in terms of big public works projects. I was on Taravel Street yesterday, meeting with some small business owners. They were told, Taravel and the MTA and DPW and all 6 different departments, they were told it would be a 2-year project. We're coming up on year 6, okay? There are 6 different construction management teams in 6 different departments. Under my plan, we will have 1, so that when we open up the street, we open it up once, not 6 times. I'm tired of the ineffectiveness. I'm tired of the corruption. They talk about more ballot measures, more commissions. We just need them to do their job.
I think that there is a lot of misinformation about the budget. And just to be clear, we're talking about an almost $16 billion budget, and only about $7 billion of that is general fund. And the others include the airport and other enterprise departments that have grown significantly Can you hear me in this? Testing. That have grown significantly because of various capital projects, including one at the airport that's valued at about $2.5 billion. So we've seen general fund increase incrementally, and we have done everything we can to not only make investments, but also hold organizations accountable. And we've taken away resources from organizations that were not necessarily doing the work that they committed to doing. It is easier said than done, and that's why we work very closely with the city attorney's office and the controller's office to deal with many of those issues. I have balanced our budget every single year without cutting staff from the city and county of San Francisco. And more importantly, we have a less than 5% vacancy rate with our nurses and a lot of other city employees in San Francisco. And what I am proud of is the work that we have done and what we are trying to deliver for the people of San Francisco. And there's a lot of talk about what is easy to do, what folks are going to do, but when you get in there and get in the weeds and are deconstructing what has been built up for over decades in the city and county of San Francisco, the fact that we still are getting results with the people that we have helped to exit homelessness, I am really proud of that work, even though I know there's more to come.
I actually want to ask the mayor a follow-up question. You know, while the current proposed budget is technically balanced, it taps on reserves, relies on one-time sources of funds, and kicks the can down the road. So what structural changes need to be made to get ahead of a looming oh, sure, sorry. Okay. While the current proposed budget is technically balanced, it taps on reserves, relies on one-time sources of funds, and kicks the can down the road. What structural changes need to be made to get ahead of a massive looming deficit?
Well, first of all, every single year, the board does a process where they add money back to the budget to pay for a lot of their pet projects. And you know what I do? I don't spend that money, number one. Number two, what we have done is made sure that we are looking at re-evaluating our tax structure. There's a ballot measure that will go on our taxes that will go on the ballot this November, making our tax structure more equitable for all businesses so that this city is not relying on 5 big companies which pay 24% of all taxes. Long term, we have had to make hard decisions for those things that are nice to have versus those things are need to have. And we are getting rid of nice to have on a regular basis, and that is how we have to be able to continue to balance this budget. It's a lot of work, and we are committed to doing what's necessary to get there.
We're now moving to question number 4, which is the final pre-written question before we go to the audience questions. The SFMTA is operating Muni's light rail system on floppy disks and Windows 98. Ridership and revenue are down significantly. Vision Zero has failed despite $750 million invested. SFMTA is facing a $214 million projected deficit by 2026. Yet instead of focusing on improving transit, has expended valuable resources closing down streets and aggressively implementing programs that reduce car mobility. How do you plan to ensure that San Francisco works for all who live here, working families, seniors, people with disabilities, have reliable and accessible transportation options to navigate the city efficiently? And then we start with Supervisor Safai.
Thank you. Let me just say straight out the gate, I will not rehire the head of the MTA. There will be a new director of the MTA. And part of the reason why I have to say, as someone that's worked in the city for 24 years in many different capacities, this department is the worst in doing community outreach, in communicating with the public, working with small businesses, and getting feedback. As Daniel said, the Terraville project never should have gone on as long as it did. And when they damage small businesses, they make you jump through a tremendous amount of hoops just to even get a small fraction of the money back. So on Friday, I just want to be clear, every year we run a deficit in the MTA, okay? But it's mainly about our public transportation system, Muni. So, creative way, I was one of the first candidates, I think I'm the first mayoral candidate to come out and say, we need to fund Muni the right way. Ride-hail services in our city are all over San Francisco, both autonomous and non-autonomous. For a very, very small fee per ride, we can create a consistent funding stream. Now think about it, Muni itself, and this would just go to fund Muni. No senior level staff, no extra bureaucracy, just the operators and the bus routes. We have to do that. We have to get the input from small businesses, and I did that every single year, working with our small businesses to make sure that our streets were not done in such a way that it damaged small businesses. Thank you.
A Muni needs to be fast, safe, and reliable. But I am going to address the elephant in the room, which is that things in this city are done to people. They are done to communities, like Terraville Street. The nightmare on Terraville, most now small business owners are worried about the nightmare coming to Judah Street because they are not talked to. They are not listened to. And so you all don't know me as well as some of these City Hall insiders who have been around a while. But what I pledge to you is that I am going to be a mayor that listens, that communicates, that talks before making big, bold declarations and promises. Okay, so that's really important. I will tell you, I got on the 49 in the Mission the other day, and there was a guy smoking with a pit bull. That is not the safe, reliable atmosphere that we want our kids riding on. And there are many parts of our community system that are well run. So I'm just saying, when you have grandmothers that tell me out in the Sunset and the Richmond that they don't feel safe riding Muni, when we saw what happened on our BART Plaza last week, just horrific. We need to make sure that safety is at the top of the list so that we can increase ridership, so we can increase fares. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the first part.
Sure. So SFMTA is operating Muni's light rail system on floppy disk and Windows 98. Ridership and revenue are down significantly, and Vision Zero has failed despite $750 million invested. SFMTA is facing a $214 million projected deficit by 2026, yet instead of focusing on improving transit, has expended valuable resources closing down streets and aggressively implementing programs that reduce car mobility. How do you plan to ensure that San Francisco works for all who live and work here, families, seniors, people with disabilities, that they have reliable, accessible transportation options to navigate the city efficiently?
Thank you, Amber. First of all, I'm going to respectfully disagree with some of the things issued in that question. In particular, there was just a survey done on customer satisfaction, and Muni ridership customer satisfaction is higher than it's been in 20 years. And more importantly, there have been more riders of Muni than there are all of the different Bay Area transit agencies combined after the pandemic. And so the fact is, it is getting better, but I do understand that the challenges with many of our construction projects, our capital projects, are creating a lot of problems in our city. Do we want another sinkhole or what happened in Pacific Heights and other places? Or do we want to stick to our already existing dig once policy when we're going into Terraville to replace pipes that are older than everybody in this room with our aging infrastructure? These are the hard things that we have to do. And I will agree that sometimes the MTA is not doing a good job with outreach and communication to community, and we definitely need to improve that, but we still have to make sure that we are dealing with our aging infrastructure, making Muni better, putting in protected bike lanes, and making this dense city of San Francisco a place that allows for all modes of transportation to move around efficiently and safely.
So first of all, let me concur with Supervisor Safai that as mayor, I will not renew the contract of head of the MTA. Right now, our MTA is focused on ideology and not common sense on the streets of San Francisco. Yes, I believe in our transit first policy as a city. We need better public transportation options, better Muni, more protected bike lanes throughout the city of San Francisco. But you know what? Right now, Muni and our MTA's existence for the residents of San Francisco is a net negative. It's a disaster on Terraville Street. In 2015, two young staffers from the MTA came to the head of the Merchants Association on Terraville with a fully formed out book with all the bus stops realigned, the trolley stops realigned, and said, "Don't you think this is a great idea?" He said, "No, I think it's a disaster." 9 years later, they haven't even finished implementing it, against the objections. We need an MTA that's less focused on capital projects, but on operations. When I was a supervisor, I lived through the nightmare of Van Ness and how long that took to install. We cannot continue to have these types of projects that not only disrupt the daily lives of San Francisco residents, but never take into account the effect of small businesses. The most tragic thing about Terraville is it's ripping out multi-generational small businesses in San Francisco, and now we're ripping out the heart and soul of our city. Muni will have an entirely different direction, and the MTA will have an entirely different direction when I'm mayor of our city again.
I'd like to direct a follow-up question to Mayor Breed. As a reporter, I've had Terraville merchants begging us to cover Terraville because of the ongoing construction causing them to lose so much business they don't even know if they can stay open. If you're reelected, how will you do things differently, and will you keep the head of SFMTA?
Well, first of all, 12 new businesses opened along Terraville last year during the heart of a lot of the construction. But I know that it has been a very challenging time for many of the merchants there, whom I, by the way, had an opportunity to meet with the supervisor who represents that district, and we are making investments to support those businesses as we wait to Terraville gets completed this fall, not only on time, but also on budget. We know these construction projects have an impact on community. And again, I do have to take responsibility for the challenging communication process that exists with the MTA. Our goal is to do these projects to make our city more efficient, to make it safer. And in fact, let's talk about the El Terraville and how dangerous it was for people with disabilities and how people were on and off boarding where they were almost getting hit by vehicles. Part of doing this project is, again, protecting the muni lines, but more importantly, the aging infrastructure under our Dig Once policy. It's a lot more complicated. I know it's been very frustrating for the people who live there, but my commitment is to continue to listen and to do everything we can to move forward.
We're going to move to the next portion of this debate. Please welcome my co-moderator, Frank Noto, who will be asking a question of his own and many of the audience questions as we squeeze in to our time tonight. Frank?
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. Is it too loud or okay? A little bit loud. Okay. The first question is for for Mr. Lurie. And the question is, crime has been terrible the last few years, but crime in San Francisco has declined dramatically since September, down 29% compared to the previous 10 months. Property crimes have decreased 32%. This year alone, car break-ins have plummeted 53%. Homicides have dropped nearly a third. So this is kind of a two-part question. What have you personally contributed to achieve this recent crime reduction, either as a private citizen or as a public official? And for those of you who are not public officials now, what have you done to reduce crime as a private citizen? There are dozens of people in this audience I could point out who have gone to police commission hearings, sent emails to their board of supervisors, who've organized their neighbors, and who've worked with the DA and the police. So my question is, well, what have you done? And then the second part is, how would you continue or improve on the trend to reduce crime? 29% isn't enough.
That was a lot of questions. I will. I'll start with what I've done, Frank. And it was right as COVID hit. A friend in SFPD, as our brave men and women of SFPD stayed out on the streets, they were lacking in PPE. And so I worked with a friend, and we got tens of thousands of masks and PPE equipment to our law enforcement, who were incredibly brave during that time. Second, I ran an anti-poverty fighting organization focused on making sure that we got kids off to the right start. Early childhood education, making sure that kids didn't ever even think about anything other than their dreams. There's a saying that hurt people, but those kids, if they get off to the right start, can change a community. I don't know if I'm already done with time. That was quick. That was
Yes.
quick. Okay. All right. You got a minute.
It's a minute for the question and his answer.
And the last thing I'll just say, fully staff our police department. Make sure that we got cops walking the beat, patrolling out there, making sure All right.
Well, I appreciate that question because we have been working hard to reduce crime in San Francisco. And in fact, again, I hope that there is some fact checking here, because when Mark Farrell served as temporary mayor, violent crime was up 40%, property crime was up 70%, car break-ins were up 115%, and in fact, my budget for the police department is $200 million more than his budget was during that time. I think it's important to note that because the work that we have been doing on the ground every single day with our state and federal partners have led to this significant decline. I'm very proud to be working with the Drug Enforcement Agency, the U.S. Attorney's Office. I don't know any other mayor that is making not only arrests of those dealing drugs on the streets of San Francisco, but also people who are using drugs. That takes a lot of courage to make these hard decisions, and more importantly, our bait car operations, as well as our retail blitz operation, and not to mention my appointment of our district attorney, Brooke
Time's
Jenkins.
up.
It goes on and on and on, and I take full credit for all of this work, but it is not enough, and I know more needs to be done.
Again, it's a 1 minute
Do I get
response.
additional time because she called me out?
We don't get, in this portion, there is no rebuttal.
Okay, here we go. Let's stick to the facts. When I was chair of the budget committee for 4 years in partnership with Mayor Lee, and when I was mayor, we grew our police department to record staffing levels. We had over 2,300 officers serving the residents of the city and county of San Francisco. Since I've left office, Mayor Breed defunded the police department 2 years ago to the tune of $120 million. That year represented 20% of the operating budget of the police department. That is not a commitment to public safety. And since I left office, the police department is down 600 officers. So essentially, 25% of the police department that existed when I was mayor is eviscerated. It is no wonder that public safety is the #1 issue across the city of San Francisco. Multiple district stations, police stations I've spoken with, they're down 40% staffing. The other day, I was at another ride-along. There were supposed to be 14 people on duty that day. There were 4. This is a problem in every single neighborhood. It's why we need a mayor with a strong commitment and a track record of funding public safety and standing by the men and women of our police department every single day of the year.
Thank you.
The next question.
So the question's about what you've done, right? Not what you, I just want to be clear. Okay. Right. I just want to be clear. I want to answer the question appropriately. So first and foremost, one of the things that I did back in August of 2020 is we formed the Organized Retail Crime Working Group with the DA, the chief, the sheriff, the NAACP, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, the California Retailers Association, the Union Square CBD. You guys get the gist. And the idea was to focus on property crime and retail theft. We passed a law to allow sheriffs to be on the streets. We passed a law to focus on illegal street fencing. I led on that. And we worked with the district attorney and the police department to apply for state grants to allow us to get license plate readers and cameras. I also worked on alternative sentencing programs with adult probation to create abstinence-based drug-free housing, the first time in decades in San Francisco, so repeat offenders would not keep hitting the streets. And just recently, I supported the DROP program. We're going to put that on the ballot to keep our officers from retiring, and also a loan forgiveness program for our first responders. Thank you.
Okay, so our next question is much simpler, and we're going to start with Mayor Breed, and that is, by the end of your next term as mayor of San Francisco, or for the rest of your first term, what will the city's homeless picture look like, and how do you get there? What will the city's homeless picture look like, and how will we get there?
First of all, I have increased our shelter capacity by over 60%. I've increased our permanent supportive housing beds by over 50%, and we've helped over 15,000 people exit homelessness. But the fact is, as we build more housing, we add more shelters, increase our funding for these various programs to keep people housed, it clearly is not enough. We have to cut the supply off of not only drug tourism, but the people who are coming here to San Francisco expecting us to save the world. We are at capacity, and we have to figure out a way to make sure that we are meeting people where they are, but through the Homeward Bound program, we have invested additional resources to reconnect people with their relatives in the places that they might have come from. Here's the thing, I'm really proud of the work that we've done with Proposition E, where we're going to be using surveillance technology and other technologies to do the work necessary to help address issues around public safety, as well as Proposition F, which none of the folks here on this stage supported, requiring people who are
Time's
getting
up.
money from the city to be in treatment.
And Mr. Farrell.
Thank you. So after my first term as mayor, our homeless picture will look drastically different than it does today. We need a leader to focus on this issue, to get people the help that they need, but also clean up the streets of San Francisco for the rest of us. I believe our sidewalks belong to everybody in San Francisco. They belong to young children, they belong to young families, they belong to the elderly, and we need to have that approach and be unapologetic about that inside of City Hall. I believe in treating people with compassion and respect. We need to offer them shelter and housing, but if they say no, we will take their tents away. That's what I did when I was mayor in 2018. And yes, read the articles. All the large tenant cameras were gone by the time I left office as mayor. I will do it again. And in addition, as part of my fentanyl state of emergency, we will capitalize on building thousands of new shelter beds throughout the city of San Francisco, and once again focus on Project Homeward Bound. I quadrupled that project's budget when I was mayor, and this mayor has let it disintegrate.
Time.
I will bring that back. We will make a huge difference in the city of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things I think that will come as no shock to everyone, we literally only count the number of people on our streets every 2 years because we're required by the federal government so we can get additional money. As mayor, I will make sure we are out there aggressively, constantly understanding what our progress is and how we're using the resources that we have. Right now, we have hundreds of shelter beds sitting empty tonight. We have thousands of permanent supportive housing units sitting empty. And it wasn't until we called for an audit of that to see how many were sitting empty that movement started to happen. And I passed legislation just 2 months ago to make the Homeward Bound program permanent because this mayor allowed the program to die and get buried in the bureaucracy. We will get that number back up to over 1,000 a year. And it's a simple program. You unite people with their family and friends and get them back to the community that they're from. And lastly, we have to build more shelter. We have to expand the amount of shelter, and that includes tiny homes and places that people can convalesce with both recovery and mental health.
Time is up.
I'm the only one in this race that's actually built shelter. We did 78 units at 33 Goff. We got it done for $34,000 a unit. The city and county has taken the example, but the only problem is it costs $113,000 for them to do it. Under my watch, we are going to stand up 1,500 shelter beds in the first 6 months of my administration. People will no longer be able to resort to, nor will they be allowed to stay on our streets. We need to send a message to the country and to the world that you do not come to San Francisco to deal drugs, to do drugs, or to sleep on our streets.
I've been told by our organizer that you have had we have to be fair to you, so we're going to give you a follow-up question, and I want to ask you, what are you going to do about the drug market that's going on in mid-market? I know that you said you build housing, but there's the criminal element out there. How are you going to?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about going after the fentanyl state of emergency that I'm going to call on day one of my administration. We need to get tough. We need to get tough on first-time drug dealers. We need to use technology to make sure that once you're arrested dealing drugs in the Tenderloin or in Soma or in the Mission, that we work with our DA and the judges, and we say to those drug dealers, you're not allowed to come back to that neighborhood. I just wrote an op-ed about it. You can read more about that. On the demand side, we need to make sure, as I said earlier tonight, that we build the beds. We need to build drug treatment beds and mental health beds. The mayor also said, we do have a law now, SB 43, that allows us to mandate drug treatment. But you can't mandate treatment if you don't have the beds. It's not allowed. And so we need to build out those beds. And once again, we send a message that we are going to help people. We're going to be compassionate. We're going to get them into treatment. But they will no longer be able to deal drugs or to do drugs on our street.
So our next question is, back up here, is Mayor Breed. And that is, what one policy would you advocate to address San Francisco's impact on global warming? That's from Sam Gilbert. What one policy would you implement to impact global warming in San Francisco?
Well, I'm proud of the work that I've already done to implement Clean Power SF, the single most important thing that we could do to impact climate change. And more importantly, our climate action plan that we released a couple of years ago has really taken off with the work that we plan to do to address climate change, which includes focusing on equity, focusing on communities that have been disproportionately impacted, like the Bayview Hunters Point community. We have made a very intentional effort to really start to implement this plan, and San Francisco has been a real leader on climate. So I'm really proud of the work that we've already done, and we will they just don't want me to speak, do they? Continue to move our climate action plan forward.
So I am incredibly proud of the work that I did when I was a member of the Board of Supervisors, when I was mayor, around legislation protecting our climate and making sure we protect San Francisco against climate change. I will do it again as mayor next year. You asked for one thing specifically. I think the number one thing we can do, it's been talked about earlier, is focus on public transportation and making it more appealable to the city of San Francisco and to our residents to get out of our cars and onto buses and into the bike lanes. But we don't do it in a way that penalizes people for driving their cars. We need to make the community much more attractive. We need to make sure that our bike lanes are protected throughout the city of San Francisco. That will be my policy going forward. That will be my North Star. And by doing that, we will have a more dramatic effect on climate change in the city of San Francisco than we have over the last 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I would continue the work that I've done out in the Excelsior Outer Mission. We have planted over 3,000 trees since I became supervisor 7.5 years ago. And my plan would be to plant an additional 40 to 50,000 trees citywide. San Francisco has the lowest urban canopy, one of the lowest urban canopies in the United States. I mean, it might be funny, Daniel, but the truth is, at the end of the day, communities that can't afford to plant trees and haven't been able to in the past truly need to embrace and have embraced in our community planting trees and what it means for shade, what it means for energy use, what it means for building community. And at the end of the day, I think that's something that San Francisco has not done well, and we will continue to do. It wasn't until we had Proposition E, where people understand that the city is responsible for maintaining their tree and maintaining any damage on the sidewalk, that we were able to get those numbers back up. And that's something that I would do aggressively for San Francisco.
Ahsha, I planted 6 trees on my alley, and I'm all for more trees. The one thing that I've talked about a couple weeks ago was we're going to build a climate innovation hub here in downtown San Francisco. We're leaking jobs out to places like New York. I want us to lead on climate again. We've fallen off in terms of pole position on that front. I want to marry the 22 empty Salesforce towers worth of office space downtown with the tax proposal that is on the ballot, where clean tech companies will have a 59% reduction in taxes if we pass that in November, with bringing business back downtown. Let's lead again. I want that revenue, and I want those jobs here in San Francisco because the climate needs our help.
Next question is rental housing, creating rental housing. Oh, sure. The next question is about creating rental housing. Would you support exempting seniors who have vacant rentals in their homes from the just cause eviction ordinance? And we're starting off with Supervisor Safai. Sure. The just cause eviction ordinance means you have to go through procedures to evict someone. You just can't say, hey, you live in a room in my house and it's not working for whatever reason.
Okay, so I'm not so sure about.
Excuse me. Supervisor Safai goes first, and I'm sorry, I went out of order before. I apologize.
So I'm a little confused on what the question is. I understand it's just cause and seniors, but I'm not really clear on. Yeah, okay. Can you please?
Sure, I'll repeat it again.
And by the way, everyone said they were confused. So just for the record, I don't want the Standard or somebody writing later some nonsense about. Let's be clear. Everyone said they were confused.
We should ask Supervisor Peskin what he thinks.
Do I get a rebuttal? Would you support exempting seniors who own vacant rental rooms in their home from the just cause eviction ordinance? So they could evict a renter in their home.
It's a little confusing question. I think it's a slippery slope on just cause. I think we have some pretty solid tenant protection laws in this city. I would not open that door up to start evicting people. I understand the concern because many seniors are living off of this income to survive. My mother did for many years, and she's here in the audience, rented out her rooms. And so I understand what it's like to have a situation where you might have a bad tenant, but we don't want to get into the business of changing these willy-nilly. I would have to have a lot more information, but I would not be open to opening them up to start evicting people.
Mr. Lurie.
I'm going to just stay seated for this one. I think I'm with Ahsha. I need to know more about this, but it's a slippery slope, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Mayor Breed.
No.
And Mr. Farrell.
So my answer is no as well. I don't believe that's the right approach. But let's acknowledge the underlying issue, though, that's being talked about. The amount of vacant units that we have in the city of San Francisco that are not being rented out. Right now, City Hall's approach, and my little friend's approach here, who isn't here, is about taxing property owners for vacant units. It's not working. Instead, what I have talked about is proposing tax incentives for property owners to rent out their units to police officers, to firefighters, to sheriffs, to 911 dispatchers, to teachers and nurses in the city of San Francisco. Let's get people living in the city of San Francisco that we want to be our neighbors every single day, that are critical to the functioning of our city. That is going to be my approach, and we will make a difference here in our city. Thank you.
So I want to be clear, these are audience questions, so if you find them confusing. So the next question is going to start off with candidate Lurie. Now that University of California has declined the idea of opening a campus in the Soma Market Street area, what plan or initiative would you pursue to introduce to revitalize the area?
So back downtown. One more time.
Again, the question is about Soma and
campuses.
Market Street.
Listen,
UC's not building a campus. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I like what UC Law is doing. They've built housing. They're talking about building more housing downtown. They're exempt from the planning and the permitting here in San Francisco. They can do it at state. I like that idea. I think they built 600 units of housing, and they want to do more. But once again, we need to look at downtown and transform it into a 24/7 community. We need more restaurants, we need more arts and culture, we need more housing, we need that commercial to residential conversion. We absolutely need more density downtown. And frankly, we need public safety. We need clean and safe streets. It's the only way we're getting people coming back to work, at least for hopefully 5 days a week. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do on day one as your next mayor, starting on January 8th next year. My team is coming to the office 5 days a week. We're going to set an example. This City Hall is only 2 or 3 days a week right now.
Time's up.
First of all, my direct team comes in 5 days a week, number one. Number two, there's about 34,000 city employees, and some of our technical folks who are very difficult to hire in the city are not necessarily coming in 5 days a week. It's more complicated than that. But here's the thing, what we are doing right now, we have 60 students from historically black colleges and universities as we speak, taking classes downtown and setting an example to show universities what it can be like. And in fact, we have a university summit where we're not just inviting the UC system, because there are a lot of universities, including Johns Hopkins and other universities, even outside the United States, to come and to talk about how they could use the downtown space as not just a campus, but a place where students can live. And that is how we're going to focus on revitalization, making it simple, getting to yes. And thank goodness there are members of the Board of Supervisors running for mayor, because now they're agreeing to all of my zoning changes. So thank you very much.
So let me be the first to say, I think it's great that we have 60 students downtown, but let's be honest, that's not a solution for downtown San Francisco. We need to be real about what the issue is downtown. It is public safety. We need a mayor who's going to be very strong to make sure we restore the budget of our police department, that we grow the police staffing to the point where our district stations can protect us in our neighborhoods, but make sure that downtown is safe, and that our homeless situation and the fentanyl emergency that we have is not growing out of control and affecting downtown again. As mayor, public safety and cleaning up our streets will be my first priority. Therefore, we create an environment downtown where businesses might want to think about coming back, where conventions might want to think about coming back. Then again, we get aggressive with tax incentives. We get aggressive converting commercial to residential, and we build the future of downtown. I agree. It is 24/7 and something we can all get excited about. Thanks.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, I introduced legislation, and it was modeled on what happened in New York City, in Arizona, of all places, in Phoenix, 18 years ago. The mayor came in, partnered with public universities, was able to acquire land. Fast forward today, in Phoenix, 12,000 students, 4 million square feet, $6 billion worth of revenue, and it allows them to diversify their economy so they're not so reliant on one industry. That's why I proposed the legislation, so we can buy buildings now in San Francisco's downtown, because they're at a historic low. And I would make that a top priority as mayor. And thank goodness we have a mayor that's running for re-election, because she loves to copy my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the audience for all the great questions. Please keep your voices down. We're going to try to finish on time. We have to get out of here. And Amber.
Okay, so we're going to move to the closing statements of the portion of the debate. Each of our candidates will now have 1 minute of closing remarks to finish this evening's debate, and we will return to our opening rotation and begin with Supervisor Safai.
Thank you. As your mayor, I will never make excuses. I promise accountability and bold leadership. Of all the candidates standing here tonight, I bring the most diverse set of experiences to this job. I'm an immigrant. I've run my own small business. I've been advocating for working families for the past 24 years. I will listen and be a strong voice for you. I worked for 2 mayors, Mayor Willie Brown and Gavin Newsom. I've been a deputy department head. I've worked with organized labor. I've worked with public works. and I've been on the board for the past 8 years. 1 year as the president of our retirement fund, $33 billion. This is not an entry-level job. You have to be ready for this job day one. I will fight like hell to build a safe, affordable, thriving city so teachers, nurses, janitors, firefighters, 911 call operators, all of our working families, all San Franciscans can live in this city and call it home. I hope you'll join me.
San Francisco, we are coming back, but I believe the outcome of this election will determine how fast and what that comeback looks like. We can return to the same bickering politicians who have spent their careers building a broken system, then blaming it for their failures. Bigger budgets every year, worse outcomes, more excuses. Or we can choose a better future rooted in accountable leadership, new ideas, and the end to the politics of demonizing each other on every single issue. I'm not naive. Challenging the status quo is never easy, but that's what it's going to take to build a safe, clean, and affordable and thriving city that you all deserve. I'm so confident that we can get big things done because I've spent my career doing it, and I hope to have your vote on November 5th.
I am proud to be your mayor, and we have dealt with unprecedented crises time and time again. But what we've done to address those crises are the facts. The fact that we have helped over 15,000 people exit homelessness. The fact that crime is lower than it's been in 10 years. The fact that we are moving this city forward, and I feel hopeful and optimistic about the future. I have met these challenges head on, and it has not been easy. What does the next 4 years look like? We will continue to implement my 30 by 30 plan, bringing 30,000 new residents and students to the downtown by 2030. We will continue to do the work to make Muni better and to make our streets safer. We will continue arresting drug dealers as we see crime declines, and we continue to do everything we can to ensure the safety and support of those who live in San Francisco. I'm proud, excited, and looking forward to the future. This is not a job that's easy. All of these guys are talking about goals and ideas that in many cases are the work that I have been doing on the ground every single day in order to move San Francisco forward. And I hope to have your support. Thank you so much.
This election is going to come down to two questions. Do you believe we need change in City Hall? Yeah. And if you do you believe experience and competence actually matters? I'm running for mayor because I believe we need change in City Hall. I've been mayor before. I've sat in that seat. I know what it takes to run the city government of San Francisco. And when I left as your mayor in 2018, San Francisco was in a much different, much better place than it is today. Police staffing was up. Homelessness was declining. We didn't have a drug crisis, and our economy was kicking on all cylinders. That's the San Francisco of the future. And this is no time for rookies. Next mayor's gonna inherit a $16 billion budget with over 35,000 city employees. That doesn't happen on the job training. My vision for San Francisco is a city that is safe, with clean streets, a thriving economy, vibrant neighborhoods, and a focus on families once again. Because I want my children to be proud to call San Francisco home. I hope you will join my campaign. Thank you.
Right, that concludes tonight's debate. I want to thank every candidate that showed up tonight to debate. I think all of you will agree this was a very exciting race. I know tonight's debate will help me make my decision at the ballot box, and I hope we'll do the same for you. I want to thank everyone that was involved in putting on this event, in particular Angela and Anna for helping me prepare for this event. Now I turn it back to Lurie.
Thank you so much to all the candidates, and I think we'll just wrap it up with that.
Now if I put the chairs away, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thanks again.
That was the most wise set of questions I've ever
We'll see you Wednesday. No more chocolate. You did. I'm a volunteer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'm a volunteer.
Good, good. Oh, fun. Well, thank you for being here tonight. It was a packed house.
Yeah, thank you.
I run for school board.
San Francisco.
Oh,
There's 13 candidates running. We don't get invited easily.
okay. What's your name? I'm live now. Do you want to talk? Do you want to say anything?
Are you an influencer?
What's that? Oh, no, not really. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So what's your name again?
My name is Sean Shayati. You can learn more about me at sfmayor2025.com. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
My name is Sean.
I don't think she's doing well.